Hey, what's up everyone? Mr. Glitch here. So, I want to make a video on the basics of scripting. I want to break it up into a couple of different parts. So, first of all, we're going to start off with scripting a respawn. We're going to work on collisions, object collision, sounds, text, color changing, some simple stuff. So, let's get to scripting. Alright, so the first thing is a respawn script. Okay. Things that you'll need for a respawn script is a trigger, a script, and a respawn gizmo. Respawn point gizmo. Alright, and then in our variables, we're going to need a respawn object variable. Name it whatever you like. I normally just name it respawn. And then we can set it up to be when triggers entered by player, we're going to respawn. Which has been this right here. We'll respawn player on the respawn here. Okay, that's how we write it in our script. Then we go down to our trigger, pull up property panel, and what we'll do is grab the property panel for the spawn point, grab this blue little pill, bring it over here to the empty spot, and now we're tied together. And you also want to make sure in the trigger property panel that of course it's enabled and the trigger is going to be on the players. Alright, so if we go down here to test it, we should respawn over there. And we did. There's our respawn. And also, as you've seen, I jumped pretty high. And what that is that I set this up to where when you spawn into the trigger, you spawn over here. And then if you set the gravity and player speed within a spawn point, if you set up a trigger to spawn here, whatever those settings are set in gravity and speed, when you spawn here, that's what your new gravity will be, unless you spawn into another spawn or you set into another trigger that set it back to its original gravity and speed. So that's a little tip trick type of thing to change the player speed and gravity. Now, go back to my original spawn. Should be back to normal. Alright, so if you want to do anything with text messaging or messages or text, showing, hiding, whatever you'd like to do here, one way would be to grab your text gizmo, write out your message, and then when you can say when trigger is entered by player, we will set object visibility. So when triggers entered by player, we're going to set, we'll make us a text variable object so we can tie our text together. A variable will go right here where it set text to visibility to true, and then when we exit the trigger, we want the visibility of the text to go false. And we're going to copy this and put it up here at world start because we want it to start out to be invisible. Once we step into the trigger, it'll be visible, and then once you exit the trigger, it goes back to invisible again. So now we can put this right here. Open up a property panel for our, go here now. We'll grab our text blue pill here, tie it into the empty spot. Of course, once again, make sure it's enabled and players tagged. And now, once we step into it, we see Hello Horizon, leave, and it's gone. Alright, there's also a few other ways you can do that. You also have, I do believe it's, there we go. You can also do this right here. Display, and then you can type in what you want it to say. So, let's see, hello. There we go. And then we can grab this. Alright, now I can do this right here. This is just another way of doing it. If I can grab it here. Okay, so we can, inside the script, tell it to what we want it to say. So we open up this, remove that, grab our empty text block, put in our variable slot here. Everything's still normal. Okay, and this will give you a, I guess, one less code block you have to write down because you don't have to put the show false, so invisible, set visibility to false on that one. So when we step into a trigger, it'll write out hello horizon, leave, and it's nothing. So that's one way of doing it. And then there's also these little show pop-up for players. So if we do show simple pop-up, show pop-up for player that entered the trigger, and this will eliminate the world start and when triggers exited, because we're only going to give the action for 5 seconds. So and there's our little pop-up, little white box. This is text, because we have text inside of there. So yeah, there's just a couple different ways of doing text and hide and show and pop-ups. Alright, so changing color pretty much works the same way. Only difference is that you're going to have to type in the RGB color codes. And a easy way of doing that would be pull out a block, copy it, grab the 2 colors that you want. I think I have another one, so we just do this. You would open the property panel for each one. For an example, go to attributes, scroll down to color, and this is your color, your RGB, and this is what you could use to type into this. This is not exactly this, oh wait, the red is. So it'll be 0.57, which is 0.57. I got 04, 04, and I got 04 again. So it's a little way of getting your color, so you can just pick out your color through here, or any other color through here, any of these guys here, and then it'll show up in the property panel. But yeah, this is one way to do color changing. So when we're in, it's green. When we're out, it's red. Now, in order to tag this and make it work right, we need to set our trigger properties from players to object tag, and then write a tag that you want to use to get the make sure it's the right object, pretty much. So for in this instance, we're going to be using ball because it's a ball. It doesn't have to mean name ball. It could be named Tom, whatever you'd like to name it. And then over here on the balls property panel, which is this guy right here, we're going to go to scroll down to the attributes here, and right here where it says tag, we're going to write ball. Make sure that they match. Now that they do match, Now we don't have to tie anything together for this example because, well, we use the tagging system. So once this ball goes inside, it changes to green. Once it comes out, it turns back to red. And that is how you tag an object with a trigger. And now for visual effects, we got when triggers entered by object, play visual effect on visual effects. We can also do this with players as well. And when triggers exited by a player, we'll copy this here, copy this here. So for this example, when triggers entered by object or player, and then when triggers exited. So the reason that I have stop visual effects on visual effects is if, for example, you wanted your VFX to loop over and over, play over and over again when an action was received. So when triggers entered by player, you set the visual effect to loop, so that would start the visual effect and the thing would loop. And once you exited it, if we didn't put stop visual effects on visual effects, then it would continue once you left the trigger. So in order to get it to stop the loop, it would have to make it put in stop visual effect on visual effect. So for this example, we're going to do player. Okay, switch it over to player. Okay, visual effect is tied together. And then once we leave, it stops. Go in, loops over and over and over. Leave and stops. And that is the reason why we put the stop there. Alright, now that we've done when players entered by trigger, send play an action, or when objects entered by trigger play an action, we're going to combine when object collides and when triggers entered by object. And we're going to set it up for a collision with the floor and when object enters trigger. We're going to use it off just one object here. So in our first script for the trigger is when triggers entered by object play sound, which is our SFX variable. And then on basketball 2, which is our collision with the floor, when colliding with object play sound on SFX, which is our variable. We need our two sounds that we want to use. We need our ball on the floor, basketball hoop, and a trigger. So on the first script here, basketball hoop, we got enabled, triggers on object tagged, and then we're going to tag it ball. Object tagged is ball. And then we got our script basketball hoop, and then we have our sound, which is this sound right here. And then the ball here, the property panel for this, to go along with our tag, we got to tag it in attributes, and it's going to be tag ball right here. So these two tags will make the script run and play its sound. And then on the next part, we want to bounce the ball on the floor and make a noise. So what we'll need to do is put the script on the ball, tie our sound in, basketball bounce, and then on this, for an example, we'll need the ball property panel, and we're going to need the floors property panel. And what we do on this, for an example, is we're going to need the tag for the floor, which we call it floor, which is the tag. And on the ball itself, we need to come all the way to the more options. And then when collision event from object tagged, when it gets the event from the object, it's going to play the sound. And we're going to name it floor as long as just like this one is. And that's how you could use one object to set up for two sounds. And there's a few other things that you can do with this kind of system. But this is just the example we're using for now. So now when I grab the ball and I bounce it on the floor, I get that sound, the bouncing sound. And then when I come over here to the net, there you go. Now you have one ball that makes a sound when you bounce it, and when it enters the trigger. There you go. And then the next part, we can show you how to do player gravity and speed with a trigger. So you'll step into the trigger, it'll change their speed and gravity. When they leave, it'll put it back to normal. And I'll explain a little bit to get it to stay and all that stuff. So for one example for that is you can set up this where you respawn the player and then change their speed or gravity, and it stays that way until you set up another trigger that when they enter it'll set it back to normal. Or if they respawn again, you can put up another respawn to set their things to be a normal. But for this example, we're going to set it up to where when the player's in the trigger, that's when the speed and the gravity will change. Once they leave, it goes back to normal. So, of course, when triggers entered by player, set player gravity to 1.81 and set player speed to 8. Our default gravity and speed is default gravity is 9.81 and speed is 4.5. So as you can tell, our gravity is lower because we went down. We want 1.81, and our speed is 4.5, and we went up to 8, which makes us a little bit faster. You can also go the other way, make this player slower or faster, however you like. When triggers entered, so here. My gravity is low, so I'm going really high. Plus, I'm really fast when I'm in the trigger too. See, I slow down there and go fast. So that's one thing you can do. And then another thing is that we can remove when triggers exited, set everything back to normal. So instead of doing that, we can do this, and then we'll stay that way. Okay. So there's that example. Let me point up, get my default stuff back here. Then another little thing you can do is we can put player gravity to 0. 1.81 is the lowest you can go for like the mid bounce, but 0 does another little thing that's pretty cool, and that is if I hit I guess I'll just put a ramp in here. Let's put a ramp on the ground here, and we'll do that one more time. Okay, now, so if I go up in the air, now I'm off the ground because my gravity is at 0. And then, let's see. Go back to default. Set this to 0. Now we can use the head, our head direction, to go higher and lower. So that's a cool little thing that we could do. And what I'm doing is I'm pushing up on the joystick. And if I point my head up, I go up. If I point down, I go down. And then you can set up another trigger to put everything back to normal, and then people can be on the ground again. So yeah, I hope this first video helped y'all out with the first steps of basic scripting for little things for objects and players. I'll be making some more that goes into depth a little bit more with a few things to show how to get a couple more code blocks going on in your scripts and see what all y'all make. Can't wait. I will see y'all next time, and I hope you enjoyed the videos. Thanks for watching. Peace.